Thanks for coming over. Thanks for doing
Absolutely.
this.
Excited.
Appreciate it. Um, so you've heard the show, and it's called taking chances. Why not you? Why don't you do something? And so what I want to get to is, I'll say this first. One, you're a 2024 Leadville Trail 100 finisher, which is amazing. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
I want to hear the story of Evan from growing up here in Bettendorf to what made you decide to do that, and then really dig into more about your transformation from football player to
Yeah.
ultra runner,
Yeah.
because it's unbelievable. I was mentioning to Byrne how, if there's a record for someone, the biggest person that's finished, and I don't mean it
It's
any
got to be close.
disrespectful, it's got to be. I don't know. I'm sure there is a record. So let's just start with, growing up. What sports did you play? How did what was it like growing up? You played football at PV,
Yep.
went to Iowa State, and then just kind of walk through the whole thing that led up to last year.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then we'll really dive into that experience of how you trained and what the race was like.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, like you said, grew up in Bettendorf, went to Pleasant Valley High School. Growing up, I always gravitated towards soccer, to be
Mm.
honest. I That was my sport growing up. I watched professional soccer. That was my dad's sport too. Um, and so that's what I gravitated towards, played for BSA.
Oh yeah.
And so, however, as I got older, towards the end of elementary school, I was like, hey, maybe this probably isn't for me long term. I felt like I had peaked and I was always the biggest kid out there. I'm like, man, I'm getting bigger. And like, I decided to step away from it and I think I made the right call. And then that's when I first started playing football, um, around that time. And that definitely was more of my sport, my size. I was always a big kid. Um, but yeah, definitely growing up. Uh,
Did they have middle school football?
yep.
Okay, so
So
PV middle school had
yep.
football.
So I started in fifth and sixth grade. They do like a little kids program.
Yeah,
It's tackle.
yeah,
Um, and they had like a weight limit, like you couldn't be over like 115 pounds or something
yeah.
to run the ball.
Yep, we had the same thing.
So yep, never touched the ball in my life. And so besides center, but and so yep, always played offensive line growing up. Continued the same in middle school. And so I definitely knew, like, I played baseball a little bit, but I definitely knew that football was my sport. And then yep, same thing going into high school. Um, Football was it. I ended up doing wrestling. I kind of got coerced by the
Mm.
coaches to go out. I was a bigger kid, and they're like, "Hey, we need some more heavyweights." I absolutely hated it. Especially when I was like in those awkward years, I just was absolutely getting destroyed.
Really?
Um, and so then, fast forward through high school, I obviously kept playing football, and then started getting a little bit better at wrestling. By the time I was a junior and senior, I would say I was pretty good. Um, Definitely not like ranked in the state or anything like that, but I could hold my own. Um,
Did you going in freshman year? You had played, and then going into freshman year, did you? Because the football around here is a little different than it was where I grew up.
yeah,
They had a freshman team maybe, but then it was just JV and in varsity.
yeah.
So, but I think you guys have it a different way, right? Don't you
At
have
the,
like a sophomore team and
yep,
then a junior? I don't know how it goes, but
yeah. I think it's changing now. I think the
okay.
numbers are down, but I think when I was there, we had a freshman team, then we had a sophomore team,
Yeah.
and then there really was no JV team. It was just once you got to junior year, you're like, okay, yeah, you're on varsity, and that kind of is what it is. I think now they do a little bit more different stuff with JV and sophomore teams playing some other schools' JV teams and things like
Yeah.
that. Um, but yeah, freshman year you play freshman, sophomore year sophomore, and then junior year varsity.
So when you were a freshman, how tall were like what were your stats? Like
Yeah,
throughout that? Like when did you get to
yeah. I can't pinpoint exactly how tall I was. I definitely
Yeah.
had not hit my major growth spurt, but I know the one thing that I always talk to is when I ran Leadville, probably I was the same weight or a little bit less than I was in eighth grade. And so I was about 220
Okay.
pounds in eighth
Oh
grade.
wow.
Um, and then freshman year, I was probably about 260 in high school.
Wow. And you were like, how tall are you?
Probably 6 foot, maybe just a shade over at that time. So,
Nice. And you were playing.
yep.
Nice. So then you go and you're playing, and when did you start?
On varsity?
Yeah.
I started varsity when I was a junior.
Okay.
We had a pretty good offensive line, and so
Yeah.
I talked to our coaches like, hey, like, yeah, we think we're gonna play up to varsity. But at the time, we had a couple guys that like had opportunities to play college football on the offensive line, and so there's never like a need where it's like, hey, we need this kid, who was sophomore. Would have been cool, but it never happened. I feel like I was a little bit of a late bloomer too, and so by the time I got to junior year, that was the first time that I had played varsity. And at that time. I was probably what I am now, about 6'4", and then junior year my weight was probably right around 290, 300.
And what were you doing for working out? Because I know PV has a pretty good gym,
Yep.
pretty good weight program. I know the kids, my daughters, they went through the whole weightlifting thing, which is really cool. I don't know a lot of schools do that, but I think it's cool. But you weren't running. I mean, you were just like lifting weights.
Zero running, it didn't even
Yeah,
cross my mind.
yeah,
Just lifting weights. I was a big proponent of going to the YMCA and lifting. At that time, that was maybe a little bit taboo. It's super mainstream now, and you go to the Y these days, and it's filled with high school kids.
yeah,
Um, there was honestly some pushback from coaches at times too. It was like, hey, you need to be like following our workout program. We'll get you right. And I'm like, hey, I see these kids that are the best kids that play. Like they're lifting outside
yeah,
of school. They're training, and so um, I was definitely training at the YMCA, but it was only strength training, zero cardio, nothing like that. Just
So there's
definitely
no
doing
conditioning at all.
none, zero. The only conditioning I did was what was mandated to us during summer workouts.
Okay.
That was it.
And what was that? Was that more sprints and short
A
distance
lot of
stuff?
sprints. I remember vividly the most difficult stuff that we did was what we called 110s, and so it was run the length of the field.
Oh yeah,
I don't remember the exact time that they had the linemen doing, but I know we'd work up to 10, 11, 12, and that was hell for me. I would dread it, and then I would be like, this is the worst, and I don't know how I made it through, but I did. And at the time, that was like I can't imagine ever wanting to run
yeah.
again. So
Yeah, so all right, now you're playing for PV. And
yep,
then tell me because what year is that when you're a junior?
that would have been 2017.
2017.
Yep.
Okay. And what was like when did you realize that there's a potential for you to play in college?
Probably, I'd always kind of thought about it, but then definitely during my junior season, I'm like, hey, I got the size. Like, I feel like objectively, I feel like I'm a pretty good player. I didn't know what level I would just necessarily shake out at, but I
Yeah.
thought, hey, this is probably a possibility. And talking with Rusty Van Wetzing, our high school coach as well, like they've had guys go through there, and I definitely started to take it more seriously. Um, and at that time, recruiting was kind of starting to take that shift from the old way they used to do it, which I don't even know how they used to find kids, to be honest. But now, and then it was like, oh, Twitter's a big deal
Yeah.
now, and you're posting your
Huddle.
highlights on Twitter and Huddle,
Yeah.
and you're sending that out to coaches, just cold emailing coaches like, hey, I would love to like
Yeah.
go to your program. And so that's kind of what I got into, and then started hearing back from some coaches. The first coach to ever come to the high school was UNI. So I talked to Coach David Braun for UNI, who's actually the head coach now at Northwestern. Um, and he made a couple of trips to Pleasant Valley High School, and then got a few at the right end of my junior year in high school. I got a few offers from D2 schools,
Okay.
um, and then after that, like kind of snowballs once you post an offer on Twitter. Like all these coaches start following you.
Yeah.
Um, so then going into my junior year, I had maybe some interest from some Division 1 schools, but not necessarily any like hard offers yet. But I had probably 5 Division 2 offers going into my senior year.
And when did you end up as now you're playing and you go through you're in your senior year.
Yep.
That when you started to get recognized by like Iowa State or
Yeah, yep. And so going into after my senior year, um, kind of more of that Division 1 interest that I was hoping to
yeah.
come came, and so UNI was still recruiting me pretty heavily. South Dakota, South Dakota State. Um, I had a visit to Nebraska, which was really sweet, and then Iowa State as well. Nothing ever super formal from any of those bigger schools. Just kind of conversation here and there, like, hey, essentially, like, hey, you're on our radar, like. And at that point, I knew, like, hey, if I want to go to one of these bigger schools, it's probably going to be through the avenue of a preferred walk-on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, we don't have any scholarships left, but we like you as a player. We want you on our team. It's still they're still recruiting you, but and that you still get a lot of benefits from it, but just not that scholarship money. And so, at the end of the day, I ended up receiving a preferred walk on from Nebraska. Iowa State, and then at the FCS level for Division One football, they can
Mhm.
offer some partial scholarships.
Yeah.
And so I didn't pursue these avenues, but I got partial scholarship offers from South Dakota as well as Northern Iowa. That's kind of where I was when I ultimately made my decision for Iowa State. A lot of that hinged on the fact too that I thought I wanted to do engineering,
Yeah.
and Iowa State has a really good engineering program.
Yep. Cool. So you preferred walk-on status. You
Yep.
go in, and then walk me through now. Now you're going to be doing it for, let's call it like for a living.
Yeah.
You're
Oh yeah.
you're playing full-time Division One, travel, all that hard stuff, and try to get an engineering degree.
Yep.
It doesn't sound easy.
Nope. It was definitely difficult at times. The engineering part made it more difficult. So yep, I graduated high school whenever that was. 2 weeks later, reported to Iowa State
Wow.
for the summer. And it was every day. That was pretty fun, honestly. Like the first summer, like you're there with all the other freshmen. Like, oh,
Yeah.
this is so sweet. Like you get all this free stuff.
Yeah.
Like no way, this is awesome. All these free, awesome meals. Before it really gets real during the season. Um, and then once the season hits, like you alluded to, I mean, it's like we're waking up in the morning for workouts 3, 4 times a week. Classes until 1 p.m. As soon as class is over, you're heading back to the facility for meetings, practice, and then whatever treatment you have to do. You're going to dinner, so you're not getting out of there till after 7 p.m. every day when you were there at 5:30 in the morning. So yeah, like you said, it's definitely like a full-time job during the season, no doubt.
And so then you're walk me through like from freshman till you graduate in terms of like your size. Like what was your biggest and talk about playing
Yeah.
the strength train like whatever the heck you guys did. And then, did you see the field and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff?
absolutely. So I vividly remember my heaviest weigh-in on the scale ever was 342.
Oh,
That was short-lived. I was like, man, I let myself go. I needed to kind of reel it in. Um, so majority of my career, I would say I probably played between 315 and 320.
okay.
That's kind of where I felt best. I felt like I had a good mix of still being athletic, still having
Yeah.
my cardio, but then also like being able to be
So you
strong.
what tackle?
I played center and guard.
Center and guard?
Yep.
Okay. And wow, guard at 6'4", 6'5",
Yeah, we had guys on our team.
315.
We had tackles that were 6'7", six
Yeah.
eight. So
Wow.
yeah, wild. I was like on the little bit below average probably of the height of the offensive line.
Yeah.
And so, yep. So then I probably, yep, I stayed around 315, 320. I just felt good there. And that's truly where they wanted me to be. I remember there was a day like I weighed in like 314 and they're like, yeah, we want you probably closer up to that 320. And
Wow.
I was used to it, but then I don't know, for that read that sticks in my head. I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like
Yeah. 1
they're
pound.
wanting me to
Yeah,
gain.
but one or two
Yeah, right.
pounds.
Yeah, there was times where we were like, oh, you have to chug like this was never me, but there were guys on our team that wouldn't make weight and they'd have to chug water to make weight, and I'm like, oh, this is crazy. Typically that wasn't the offensive lineman, that was more of like the DBs that were having to do that, but
Huh.
um, yeah,
Weird.
I never had a problem making weight. It was always like,
Yeah.
man, I gotta make sure I come under, but yeah.
And you're lifting weights, right? You're
Yep.
training.
Yep.
So and then what kind of conditioning did they make you guys do there?
We didn't do a ton of long form conditioning. A lot of our stuff was sprints and short bursts. I mean,
Yeah.
especially on the offensive line, like if you really break it down, like what you're doing is you're sprinting for 5, 10 seconds,
Yeah.
then you're stopping for a minute, minute and a half, then going again. So we do any longer cardio, we would do big tempo runs or it's at a really controlled jog, and then walk for a little bit, controlled jog, and then beyond that, we also do some sprint work and stuff like that, like explosive bursts. But at least for the offensive lineman, there was nothing ever super regimented as far as like we're going to try to get these guys into shape. They felt like our strength program and coupled with some of that conditioning stuff that we did was probably adequate, and I truly say that it was.
I'm gonna sidetrack for a second. I don't know if you listened to the episode I did with Mark Dowdle.
I did not.
Okay. So we met him at that backyard ultra we
Yeah.
did.
Yep.
Okay. And his thing is he's doing it right now, and I think he's on his like third team. He does a beer mile challenge where he does the beer mile and he challenges, I think there's 9 either lacrosse or football
Yep.
teams in Minnesota. And it's so funny. I bring it up because you're talking about running or we were talking about conditioning, and it's so funny because there'll be like 20 guys, and if he laps you, you're out. and it's usually the offensive lineman. They don't even make it a lap,
No.
and he's already passing them.
Yep.
It's pretty funny to watch. If you get a chance to check it
I
out,
definitely will.
he posts it every day or every week of what's going on. So, all right, you're there now. You're trying to get a degree too, right? So
Yep.
you're playing football
Yeah.
off season.
Yep.
Any condition or anything like that when you're doing in the off season, just maintain.
To back up,
Yeah,
that's
sure.
a good question. And now I'm thinking through it. During COVID, when I left right before COVID, I was probably about 330, still kind of trying to trim down a little bit and kind of
Yeah,
recondition my body to a better spot. And I was like, okay, like, I mean, I was just naive. I was like, okay, what better way to lose weight than run? And so during COVID, I can't even count how many times I would do a cardio where I would have my parents take me, drop me off at the high school, Pleasant Valley High School, and I would run home. Or I would drop my car off at the Pleasant Valley High School, have my parents drive me back, and I would run to the Pleasant Valley High School. It's just a shade over 2 miles. And when I started, I mean, at 330 pounds, that's a difficult run
yeah,
to make.
yeah,
I would walk a lot. Um, but then I vividly remember like this kind of will tie back in later, but I like remember like being excited, like, man, I just ran that whole way without stopping.
yeah.
Like, and then by the time I came back from COVID, I remember my first weigh in back was 301. And so
Wow.
during COVID, we had left in March, and then I didn't get back till like sometime in the summer to Iowa State, and I had lost 30 pounds during that time frame. And so that was kind of like a precursor to my running journey. I just kind of really fell in love with doing that.
Yeah.
But then yeah, I definitely took a pause for a couple of years for sure.
So now you can walk through the whole rest of the college career if you
Yeah.
want to, but now when did you even think about, because I don't know how, I mean, I talked, when I talked to DeDonker, he saw John Byrne speak in 2007
Yeah.
and Byrne had done Leadville in 2005.
Yep.
So he's like, I'm going to do that.
Yep.
So now where in the world, like, is this weird Quad Cities thing that circles around Byrne where all these people they hear about it from him and then or somebody else and then they're like, I want to do it.
Yeah.
When did that happen for you?
Yeah.
Like go through the rest of your
Yeah.
college, you graduate, and then
Yeah.
because I remember getting a text from him and I can't even remember what year it was because it seemed like it was 2 years before you did it, or even a year maybe.
Yep.
He's like, "Hey, Evan's gonna try this. Reach out to him, see if he wants to train." And I don't remember when that was, but
Yeah.
tell me about.
So kind of that story is there's a couple little avenues that kind of all met. And so I stopped playing football after my third year. You kind of alluded to it. It was pretty difficult with engineering. And I kind of got to the point where I was like, man, with COVID, a lot of the seniors came back. So I'm like, man, my avenue of like seeing any sort of significant playing time is dwindling.
Hmm.
And like, man, do I want to do this for another 2 or 3 years to not have the success I was maybe hoping for? And then I'm like, I felt like every day, like, man, I have to go to football. It
Yeah,
was never like,
right.
well, it did. It used to be like,
I
man, oh
want
yeah,
to go.
football
Yeah,
practice, yeah, sweet. And then now it's like, man, I gotta go to football
yeah,
practice. I'm like, that's what I'm saying. It's probably time to hang them up. And then the real kind of point, the fork in the road was that for engineering, I had to take this classes. I remember it was circuits, and they're like, hey, this class is only offered at 4 p.m. Um, and that's right when you're going to be at practice. And so basically, and it was a prerequisite to some classes I would
hmm
still have to take. And they kind of, without saying it, they're like, "Hey, what do you want to do here? Like, you can't take this class
yeah,
if you want to stay on your current track with engineering." And I was like, "Man, I think I've been wanting to do it. I was kind of worried. My main battle in my head was my whole life, my identity's been a football player. I'm like, what? I'm just gonna lose that, and maybe naively, and nobody ever said anything. I doubt many people even thought it, but I was like, man, people are just gonna think I'm a loser for quitting
yeah,
football, and so that went through my head so many times, and then finally I made the decision early in my junior year. I was like, hey, this not only is this not what I love anymore. I'm like, this is really hindering me from my professional career
hmm
in engineering. I mean, with football, you can't get an internship. You're there all summer.
yep,
Um, and so I was like, man, I think it's time. A couple of my other buddies had already stopped playing. I was like, yeah, they say it's awesome. Like they got a life
Your
again.
life changes
Yeah,
completely. The
yeah,
time, you
yep.
have so much
And
time,
so, and
right?
another thing too is I'd always told myself, hey, when I stopped playing football, I want to lose weight. Like
Yeah.
I've always been a bigger guy, and so that's something that I want to do. And I always was steadfast, like, hey, when I stop playing football, I'm going to lose weight. And so then I did. I made that decision. Called my coach and said, hey, I think it's time to be done. They
Yeah.
understood. Um, and so then the next day, I drove myself out to Ada Hayden Lake in Ames, Iowa. It's kind of two lakes and there's a figure eight path, and the path is almost exactly a 5K.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go run at Ada Hayden Lake. This is it. I said I was gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna lose weight. This was the next day. I went out there. I couldn't even finish 1 mile. I was probably running at 12, 13 minute pace. It's fun. I even look back. I was wearing my Apple Watch at the time.
Yeah.
That's how young I was in my
Yeah.
running career. So I had an Apple Watch on, and
Yeah.
my heart rate was probably
Oh
195,
my God.
and I just like, man, this is it. And so I was like, all right, come back the next day, and did the same thing. Just continued to kind of chip away, and I also cleaned up my diet. I dabbled with some keto stuff and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It was probably not the most healthy, but I definitely kind of blitzed the whole weight loss thing, and it definitely seemed to work. I was pretty motivated, and
So wait, stop. When you like, what was were you 330? Were you
when
325?
I
Like,
stopped playing, I was probably just a hair under 325.
okay, so you're 325, and now you start running,
Yep.
and you're starting to like it.
I'm starting to like it. I'm starting to like the progress I'm seeing, and I'm starting to become, I don't know if addicted's a word, but I really
Yeah.
enjoyed tracking my metrics. I was
Yeah.
like, man, I remember a couple of the key times where, hey, oh man, I just ran a 5K without stopping. I think it was like 33 minutes. And then it became, hey, I just ran a 5K under 30 minutes. This is awesome. And it just kind of snowballed from there. I didn't have any running goals at the time. And then, and all the while, my weight started to come down. I remember kind of creeping down towards that 300 mark, kind of
Hmm.
crossing over that 300 barrier. I'm like, man, this is awesome. Starting to feel good, starting to see changes. And at the same time, obviously, your running metrics are going to improve. My heart rate wasn't 195 anymore. Um, my speed was getting a little bit better. Um, and so then, and to kind of backtrack to what you're saying, I kind of had a prior understanding of Leadville through not the typical avenue of all the Quad City people. My dad, the longest time when I was
Um,
growing up, was a
yeah.
really big mountain biker.
Yeah.
And so
I don't
kind of the
know.
Lance Armstrong race across the sky stuff, he showed me that when I was younger. And that
Wow.
I knew of Leadville as the bike race.
Yeah.
And so then, but then also along the way, like being in the Quad Cities, like especially being involved with sports and around the same age as John's youngest son, Joe,
Yep.
you hear of John Byrne. Like everyone knows John
Yeah.
Byrne. Like no, like
Yeah.
he's the only person I ever knew of that ran 100 miles. I'm like, that's absolutely wild. Like,
Yeah.
how's that even possible? Like that's
Right.
everyone's
Yeah.
first thought when they hear about John running 100 miles. Like
Yeah.
that's how like a lot of people in the Quad Cities are introduced to these ultra marathons is through John Byrne, like you
Yeah.
said. And it's like, how did he do that?
Right.
But anyway, so yep, had a kind of peripheral knowledge of John Byrne doing Leadville, and also knowing about it through the
The
biking.
bike. Yeah.
And then as I kept losing weight and kind of snowballing in my running career, um, I know we've talked about this, but another thing too that kind of all came together was at the time I started really following fitness YouTube, and that's the year that Nick Bear
Oh
ran
yeah.
the Leadville 100,
Yeah.
and did a really cool documentary about it. The same year that Austin ran it.
Same year. I remember
And
seeing
so
him there.
yeah, I remember us talking about that, and that he made an awesome video about it. It's about
Hmm.
an hour long, and like I remember him doing it, following along, him doing it. I'm like, man, he finished, and then this documentary came out, and I watched it. I was like, man, that is so cool.
Talk about another big guy.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know how. I think he was probably like 195, maybe
probably right around
200, but I
there.
mean, like just
Oh, he's
jacked. And
huge.
you're like, that's not the typical ultra running
Nope,
body,
nope,
right?
nope. And so I saw that, and I had all this knowledge, but then that was still in the back of my head, like, man, that's cool. Never in a million years would I thought that'd be me doing
Yeah.
Leadville. And so then I got to the point where I was like, man, the first thought that into my head of like a running goal was like, hey, maybe next year I could run a full marathon. This
Yeah.
was probably in September of whatever year that would be, 2021. And I'm like, because that's the year that Nick Barron also
Yep.
did Leadville.
Yep.
And I'm like, maybe in 2022 I can run a full marathon. Like That's kind of be cool.
Yeah.
And a
You
lot
got to
of
start
at that,
somewhere.
and I feel like there's a little bit more of a running craze now, but at that time, especially for people my age, it just wasn't as popular.
Yeah.
Um, so I was like, that'd be really cool. So I kept training. I remember one time, just kind of on a whim, I went out and did 8 miles. I felt like David Goggins. I was like, this is remarkable.
Yeah.
And so
Around
then,
here
nope,
or
in
just
Ames.
oh in Ames.
Yep,
Okay.
in Ames. And I was like, man, that's this is incredible.
Yeah.
And so then I did that, and then this was maybe even the next week. One of my buddies who had also stopped playing football, he's like, hey, yeah, I'm doing the Des Moines half marathon this weekend. And I was like, I don't even know if he knows this, but I was like, man, I've been training more than this.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
I feel like I'm like, if he can do this Des Moines half marathon, I can too.
Yeah.
And so then this was on Tuesday, and I signed up and ran the Des Moines half marathon on Saturday. I ran 2:20 something.
Wow.
I couldn't walk afterwards.
Yeah.
I remember during that race, I got to mile 5. Um, and I was like, man, I ran 5 miles. It's funny to think now, like back, like 5 miles seems like nothing now.
Yeah.
But like back then, like I already ran 5 miles and I have still to go more than I've ever ran
Yeah.
before.
Right.
It's like this is brutal. And so then I toughed it through that race. I remember sitting down after the race and I'm like, I don't know if I can stand up. Like I was cramping so bad,
Wow.
my calves were cramping. Definitely had no clue how to fuel properly. I
Yeah.
think I took a goo at mile 11.
Yeah.
That's about all I did. I think I drank some water from the plastic cup. That's all I did. And so then after that, I got the bug. Like I was like, man, all right, here we go. And so then I kept running. Um, and then more so at that time, probably though, more so my goal was just weight loss in general. Um, I was doing a lot of running,
Were you following any program or anything, or just doing whatever you felt like doing?
doing whatever I felt
Just
like doing.
doing whatever.
I had
Yeah.
no, and at that time, I even still like now, I feel like everyone starts out in their running career like having no clue how they should train, and
Yeah.
they have no knowledge of what zone 2 is
Yeah.
or what any of that is. You just go out and like that's how I was. I would go out
Yeah.
to the lake and see how fast I could run the figure eight
Right.
without walking. Like that's what I would do. And so then trying to line up the years here. So I think at the end, so then it turns 2022 and I'm so losing weight. I probably got down to at that point 250 maybe. Um, and then in the summer, that's when I really kind of hit a stride in the weight loss as well. And so then
Yeah, but don't skip past that. So you were 320 to
yeah,
250.
yep,
That's pretty significant weight loss
absolutely. Yeah, I
in
felt
a
like
short
I
amount
felt
of
like a
time.
new person.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
I'm trying to think what day it was. I think um it was either Memorial Day or Labor Day. It, I then it was Labor Day. I then this was towards the end of 2022. Um, I was like, man. So I ran the Bix that year. I'll go
Okay.
back. I ran the Bix that year. I think I probably ran like a 57. I was pretty happy with
That's
that.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Shit.
And so then I was pretty happy with that, especially at a big at
Yeah.
that time. And that's when my weight loss was really kicking in. So at that time, I probably weighed 220.
Wow.
And so then in less than a year, I lost over 100 pounds.
Wow.
And so then, so that from my heaviest to my lightest point, I had lost over 120 pounds. And so then that's when, at that point, I had my Garmin. I was all in, and I was like, okay, it's. And then I remember one time. At that point, I had an internship in Dixon, Illinois,
Okay.
and so I was commuting. And then one day, I'm like, man, I'm gonna wake up before work. And I think, like, just like to myself, I think it'd be cool for a half marathon before work. I woke up at 3 in the morning. Had the plan to run a half marathon, and I knew that from my house, the loop to Whitey's and then down Middle Road was
Hmm.
about 6.5 miles. I could make it that. So I'm like, if I kind of do two of those, add a little bit here and there, that'll be. And I had planted out some Skittles for
Nice.
on the lap around. I was gonna grab some Skittles at my car at my house, and then just keep going. And so I did that, and I ended up running 15 miles that day.
Wow.
And I remember thinking to myself, like, man, I really feel really good right now. Like if I like didn't have to drive to Dixon, Illinois, I would have probably kept going and like maybe even like said screw it, done a marathon. Like I just like felt that good.
Yeah.
Like I probably would have absolutely bonked, but I was like, man, I feel good. Still had no idea about feeling at the time. And then this was Labor Day, and a common theme in my running. I'm like, man, I'll just do it. this was on Sunday night and Labor Day. I was in Ames with one of my friends. We were actually at a bar, just us two. We were just bored, sitting outside. Like, you know what? How I even thought about it. I'm like, I'm gonna run a marathon tomorrow morning. I'm just gonna do it. And he's like, "Are you serious?" I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna do it. And so then we literally, he's like, "All right, we should probably go home." And we left the bar probably like 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And I stopped at the. We walked over to the Come and Go in Ames, right by where he lived, because I was staying with him at the time, for the weekend. And I think I got two Cokes and some Skittles, and I brought it back to his house. Um, and I woke up early in the morning at like 5, and I'm like, all right, no route in mind. I just took off. I ended up running towards that lake again, doing 2 laps of the figure eight, coming back down all around Ames. I made it back to their house at mile 21, and I'm like, hey guys, is anybody? I called them. I'm like, hey, does anybody have icy hot? I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm cramping pretty good, but we're gonna make it. And they were like, it was like a pit stop, like an aid station. They
Yeah.
they had icy hot ready for me. They had another Coke for me. Ended up stopping at a gas station too along the way. Um, but I made it. I made it 26.2 miles. I'm like, man, this is crazy. Um, but then that was my first marathon, not official, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to like prove
This
to
is
myself.
2022?
2022.
Okay.
I just wanted to prove to myself I could do it. Um, but then at that point, a couple weeks later, I'd already signed up for the Des Moines Marathon. Um,
And that's like October, isn't it?
yeah, yep. And so I'd signed up for the Des Moines Marathon. Um, with no, I'd been training, but still no regimented training. I was running a lot at the time. I don't even have even a
Like a
good
weekly
great
mileage
guess
is,
on a weekly mileage, but
yeah.
I definitely was consistently double digits here and there, like enough to do a good marathon.
So let me just stop you for a second. So what about the technical part of it, like shoes, socks? Did you
Yeah,
know, and like what were you wearing for shirts and pants? I mean, like, did you know anything about any of that?
at the time, no.
Yeah.
I went to Shields and I tried on a few different running shoes. I remember the exact model of the shoes I ran my first marathon in. It was the Asics Noosa Tri.
Yeah.
It is a sprint triathlon shoe.
Yeah.
And so I ran my first marathon in the Asics Noosa Tri. Um, but then at that point, I kind of started to dive into that world, and then you can get into the weeds as much as you
Oh
want
yeah.
in that world. And I definitely would say that I'm one of the people that's deep in the weeds. And so my first pair of nice running shoes that I got were a pair of Saucony Endorphin
Yep.
Speed threes. And that's what I ran my first official marathon in at the Des Moines Marathon that year. I probably ran that marathon in the 2:30s. And I ran, I think I want to say like a 4:05.
Wow.
Um,
At
I was,
2:30.
yeah, I was happy with that.
Yeah.
Um, and that at the time, that course was actually hillier than I thought. It used to route through some of the more historic Des Moines neighborhoods. They've since changed it. My brothers run it last year, and they've since changed it. It's a little more flat. But the time that I ran it, it was really hilly actually,
Hmm.
and so I was pretty happy with my time.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and then after that, I still didn't have any big goals. I thought maybe one day it'd be really cool to run an ultra. I didn't know what. Leadville was on the mind, but it wasn't like I didn't really think too much about it. And then after that, I mean, I don't remember the exact date that the Leadville lottery opened, and I wish I remember what prompted me to enter. I did. I entered the Leadville lottery. I'm like, hey, if I get in,
Yeah.
I'll train
Just
for
train
this.
and do it.
I'm like, it was more of some people have like a big reason, like
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Austin Chesney, like has a really big
Yeah.
like personal reason, like he really wanted to do that for himself.
Yeah.
John Byrne has a great story on why he originally did Leadville. Um, I wish I had a better one, but I think for me it was more about like proving to myself that I could
Hmm.
do it. I had a struggle with my identity at times of like being a bigger guy, and I
Hmm.
think I was like, man, I this is something I can do, and it's like reshaping my identity and like proving to myself and like putting out to others that like, hey, I'm like I can do this. I'm not
Hmm.
this big like for lack of a better
Football
term,
player,
like big
whatever.
fat football player anymore.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I wanted to do something cool, and like I'm like, what to me, this is the coolest thing.
Yeah.
And so I entered the Leadville lottery. I was like, man, it's kind of a lot of money for me at the time I was in college. It's like whatever, like $400, something like
Yeah.
that. You didn't have to front it, but if your entry got picked, um, you then had to pay it.
Yep.
And so then I remember
So
January
is this 23 or the end of
end of
22?
22. So I entered for the 2023 race.
Okay.
And so I then entered the race lottery,
Yep.
and then I'm like, man, I was trying to look up like what are the chances, and I talked to, at that point I actually met for the first time. I think before I entered the lottery, I met John Byrne in the sauna, and
At
I
the
told
Y.
him, yep, at the Y. And I told him that I had just ran a marathon. He's like, oh, that's great. Like,
Yeah.
John, like, it's incredible. Like, and he's the nicest guy. And so that's kind of the first time I started talking to him. And he had remembered who I was from being around his son Joe's age.
Yep.
And so then kind of learning more about John's story. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna enter Leadville. And then I told him that I entered the Leadville lottery. And he's like, oh, you have to let me know. And they would exchange numbers. And like, he was treating me like, hey, yeah, like this is the plan.
Yeah.
He then like I think called me like cold called me one day. He's like, hey, are you free? Like, let's want to go for a 10-mile run right now. And I'm like, yeah,
At 10.
sure.
At
And so
10.
then and so then we did. And he talked. I mean, we ran. It was a pretty good run. We ran 10 miles at like a 9-minute pace. But he talked for an hour and a half straight
Yep.
about Leadville and about tips and tricks. I'm like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not even in the race, but
Yeah.
this is great. Like, who better resource than John Byrne, who at the time I think had ran it 4 times.
Yep.
Because he ran it in 23. DNF'd and ran it in
Mm-hmm.
24 when I ran it. And so then, yep, he ran it. So then he was kind of talking me through it. Um, man, I truthfully, I'm like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into. This is crazy. And
So
then
let's recap for a second. You go from not running a mile, 5K, to a half marathon on a whim, to a marathon on a whim, to running a red. That was that your first official
first
marathon
official,
was the
yep,
Des Moines
yep,
that you signed up for and ran 4:05. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
yep, no, yeah. So then
This is in a span
it's
of
interesting.
like
Yeah,
two
yeah,
years.
yep, yep. And so then I signed up for the
Shoot.
Leadville lottery, and I told someone at work, and they're like, "You think you could do that?" I was like, "Yeah, I think I could do
Yeah.
it." Like,
Yeah.
maybe you're right. I guess maybe this is crazy,
Yeah.
but I think I could probably do it. Um, and then I started like kind of understanding more of like the Quad City crew that's done it, and I knew that we used to be neighbors, so then I knew that you'd done it. Had no idea who Kurt was, had no idea who Austin was, had no idea who those guys were at the time. And I remember one morning I was just chilling at home and I got the email like you're in, and I was like,
Oh boy.
I literally my mom started crying because she was so scared. Like she wouldn't stop crying because she was so scared and like didn't want me to do
Oh
it.
my God.
Um, I was so pumped.
Yeah.
Like that was one of the most exciting moments. My girlfriend was so excited for me. I was like, man, this is it. I'm gonna do it. I quickly and that year, that was the year John was training solo. He didn't have a coach. Um, and so then early that year, we did do a few runs together, but not a lot. And I think quickly I realized if I'm gonna do this, I need to be in better shape.
Yeah.
And I remember meeting Austin in the sauna one time with John. I think they were there, just happened to be there together. We were kind of talking, and that's what he had already sent the text out to you guys and the whole crew.
Yep.
And I was talking with John and Austin. They're like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with deferring. Like Austin deferred, um, and like man,
Yeah, he got double whammied. It was 2 years. The one
yeah,
year where he was like prime, ready to go, and
yeah,
then COVID, and then deferred because he was injured.
yep,
I mean, that was three
yeah.
years training for it. So
Yeah, and so then I made that decision to defer probably a couple months out from the race. And so then I kind of not that I didn't stop running, but I probably should have ran more, but I kind of tapered off
hmm.
a little bit during the summer. And then
But now you know though you're
I
gonna
know,
get
yep,
in
yep,
24.
yep,
You're
and then you
like,
can't defer
hey,
again. So like
yeah, that's
24 is
it.
it. I
Yeah.
got to do it this year. And so then um in July I got a text from John Byrne. And I'd been running, but not nearly enough that I should. But I got a text from John Byrne, and he's like, "Hey, I'm doing this. I'm gonna try to run 50 miles, starting at a Alinewick, and then
Yeah.
doing some in the trails, and then doing some out in the on the road. And I was wondering if you'd want to come pace me." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And so I got over there and I coordinated it. So I was doing like the second leg with him. And how much had he ran before? Maybe he'd only maybe ran 10 miles by the time I got to him. And man, I didn't know a human could sweat that much.
Yeah. I remember the day, and I was gonna go over there, and I think Austin ended up
They
going
did.
over,
Yep.
and
Him and
Kurt.
Kurt ran the first leg with him.
Yeah, and it was super hot and humid.
Yep.
And I'll let you finish, but I know what happened.
And so then I ran 13 miles with him, and I had not been training nearly as much as I should. I was in good shape, like I still was at a good body weight, and I was
Yeah.
still strong. I mean, I lift almost every day, and so I still was in good shape, still running, but not like I was going to do Leadville 100 in a
Yeah.
month. And so then I was training like I was like excited to do the Bix maybe.
Yeah.
And so then I ran 13 miles with them, and John would say the same story, but I was like, I feel like I'm like doing better than John here.
Yeah.
Like he was really struggling. It was not
Yeah.
his day, and so I think the heat was getting to him, and so then he ended up kind of getting a second win while I was with him. So by the time that I left him, I think he was at mile 20 maybe. He was doing a lot better. So I was like, man, this is good. And so then I ended up taking off, but then I got a text from him like, hey, I only made it like 40
Yeah.
miles
I
or
remember.
something like that out of 50. And I'm like, man, that just like in my gut, I was like, man, it's probably not good. Tough day, yeah, for sure. But and so then, um, I was leading up to his Leadville. I was really excited to watch him. I'd followed along the whole time,
Hmm.
on the tracking app, and he ultimately ended up DNFing. And I remember that the next week, I think it was maybe on Wednesday or Thursday, he had run the race Saturday morning. He was like Thursday. I saw him at the gym, and he just was defeated. And he would say the same thing. And he's like, man, it's even harder for me now because I don't know what went wrong. I feel like my training
Yeah.
was good. I feel like my fueling was good. I feel like I did the things right. He said in 2016, the other year I didn't at DNF. I can pinpoint exactly what went wrong, but this year, like I don't know what it
Yeah.
was. And so then, really shortly after that, he hired Paul DeWitt to
Hmm.
coach him. And so then, um, he even that fall he ended up running
That
the
100
Mines of
mile.
Spain
Yeah.
100K in the
100K.
fall,
Yeah.
and then yep, then Zumbro 100
Yeah.
that spring. But so then once he got that coach, he John Byrne is the type of guy, and he did this. He didn't miss one workout. He did every single one, and that's when he made the decision to do the lead
Med
challenge.
challenge. Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is wild. And I know you kind of alluded to it, but I'm like, man, you go from a DNF, and the next year it's like, all right, yeah, we're gonna do the lead man. And like John Byrne is like super inspirational, and so that's definitely someone that I like got so much from during my training. And in January is when he really kind of took me under his wing and was like, hey, like if we're gonna do this, like I got this coach now,
Hmm.
and he's programming me these workouts. Like if you want to come along, like that'd be great. And he would forward me some of Paul DeWitt's emails. Like this is the stuff he has me doing. If you're interested,
Yeah.
this guy's legit. And so I was like, man, I can't defer again. Like this has got to be it. And so I really kind of got that fire under me. And John and I, we did a couple times. He'd come over to my house and we'd be like, all right, we're going out for 3 hours, and we would go and we'd pick a hilly route. We'd go downtown, run for 3 hours. We did a lot of training in that early spring time frame. We trained with Travis Swanson, who is a deer employee. I worked with him actually at Harvester, and he actually finished level this year as well
Oh, wow.
in
I didn't know
2024.
that. Okay.
Yep. And so that's a crazy story that I'll get to. But yeah, we did some training with him. He's a big ultra runner. Um, he's done a lot of them, but he we trained with him a little bit, and then just kind of understanding like, yep, this is probably what I need to be doing, these longer form runs. In a race like Leadville, you're not going to have to do as much speed workout like you are if you're going to want to run a fast marathon. So just a lot of zone two. John was harping on me, time on feet,
Yeah.
everything like that. And so just kept up the training. And I'll be the first to say I probably could have trained more. I like everyone going into first level, they're naive to what it takes. I think John Burns said this, DeDonker said this. Everyone has said like their first level, they should have trained differently. They should have
Yeah.
trained more. Like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so I was running my weekly mileage. John and I ended up doing a 9 hour trail run where
Hmm.
we got, I think, just shy of 50. Um, and I really felt good there. And
Yeah.
that gave me a lot of confidence. I was like, man, I had some issues with my shoes, swapped them out. I'm like, kind of got revived, and my feeling was good. I was like, man, I feel really good. Do I think I could have gone another 50? Like that sounds
Yeah.
insane,
Yeah.
but did I feel pretty good for that amount of mileage? I did. Um, and so that kind of gave me some confidence. I know I just doing research, a lot of people for Leadville, maybe their longest training run would be 50 miles. So I'm like, I'm right there. Like
Yeah.
I'm close. I know some of the years, a lot of the QC guys did a 24-hour run and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But I felt like the way that I chalked it up in my head to the way that I felt during that run with John for 9 hours. Like I felt really good,
Yeah.
and so I felt like I knew what I was doing in that sense. Kept training, did more 20-mile did marathons in training. Um, my peak week, I probably got up to just about 70 miles.
Mm.
But that wasn't like a consistent thing. Um, I definitely was hitting higher mileage, but not what I probably would be recommended by a coach. But I mean, I think there's also some intangible stuff too. Like, I've always been for the last 10 years. I've been a huge sauna guy.
Okay.
Like I would park at the gym, go for a run, go right in the sauna.
Yep.
I just enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And now, interestingly, David Roach, who won Leadville last year, and he's looking to win and break the course record this weekend at the Western States 100. He is an unbelievable proponent for heat acclimation training.
Mm.
And so you see his videos. He lives out in Boulder,
Hmm.
and he's running in like sauna suit, winter coat, hat in the summer, um, with the idea of increasing his internal body temperature. And he talks about all the time of the physiological benefits of the sauna for
Hmm.
running. And so that's something that I've thought about. Like, man, maybe that helped me out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember hearing from David Clark back in 2015 because we're not at altitude,
yep,
right? So not at altitude. He said that the only kind of comparable to running at altitude is running in the heat
yep,
and running in the humidity. And like that's what we kind of gravitated towards.
yep,
It's like, hey, if it's 95 out with 95% humidity, it doesn't matter. You still got to go run.
yeah,
And I agree with that. I got a sauna. It's right over there. And I got it. I've had it for like 3 or 4 years now. I love that thing.
yeah, absolutely.
I wish we could run in it though.
Yeah, I'm at the Utica Ridge sauna every single day, and so that's where you can find me. But yeah, so then I kept my training up. I did more training runs and stuff. Um, but then this was kind of before I got connected with Austin. I had an idea. I had heard that like he was interested in pacing me. But then late in the game is when I kind of got connected with him, and I was like, we had met. He had known my parents,
Yeah.
but we had never really formally met. And so then I reached out to him, and we got connected. And he's like, "Man, I would love the opportunity to pace you if you'd let me."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, absolutely!"
Yeah.
Like, and so then we linked up for the first time in probably early July. He met me after work once over at a line week, and I think we ran 12 miles or something like that. Um, and I think honestly, Austin was kind of like feeling me out, like, "Hey, is this kid like interested in Leadville?"
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
and I think there was a similar sentiment. I think we did a group run the
Yeah.
next weekend,
Oh yeah.
where we did 15 miles. We
Yeah.
did Kurt's hometown loop,
Yeah.
and I think it was kind of in a way a little bit of a feel out. Like, all right, how's this
Yeah.
kid? Is this kid legit? Like, has he actually been training? Like,
Yeah.
and so
No, I remember thinking not I didn't say anything. I just remember someone else saying, "Geez, man, he's so big that, I don't want to carry an extra 5 pounds. Never mind being, 220 or
yeah,
whatever weight you were at,
yeah,
because as you know, it's just burning fuel,
oh yeah, yep,
So
yep. And so then
I don't think anyone questioned that you're physically training, whatever. No
yeah,
one's questioning that. I think it was more about the just because you're such a big
absolutely,
guy.
yeah, I get
Hey,
it.
that race is hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard on you.
Yeah. And so I was like, man, this is what I got. And so
Yeah.
I also had in my mind like, hey, I'd like to lose weight for Leadville. I think like you said, like if I could lose 5 pounds, it's gonna help you out. And I think I got to the point that summer where like I was on the way down, but then I would be in a little bit too much of a deficit, and then my run would feel terrible.
Yeah.
I would not
Hmm.
feel good. I would bonk, and I just kind of got to that point where like, man, I feel pretty good. I
Yeah.
can I can like I run these 15-mile trail runs, and I like, I mean, yeah, I'm fatigued, but like like the day that John Byrne and I ran that long run, that 9 hours. 2 days later, we went and ran 14 at a line
Yeah.
week, and
But
so
so you felt strong. It wasn't like
yeah,
you were weak. You weren't losing weight, like, and you feeling weak, and
no,
you were probably getting in good calories
yeah,
and that kind of thing.
I
And
felt like in a good equilibrium for myself. Like,
yeah,
hey, man, like maybe I'm a little heavy for the runner side, but I felt like the way that my body was feeling,
yeah.
I felt good, and so maybe there's probably more training to be done if I were to ever do it again. But I
Hmm.
think I would approach it much differently. But I think for where I was, the training I was doing, I felt like that was kind of a happy medium, for myself, and not being underfueled and still being able to get the miles in. And so then, I mean, fast forward, we're about a month out from the race. I signed up for the Bix. I love the Bix. It's my favorite race. Um, it's the hardest 7 miles that
Yeah,
there
it's
is. I mean, I,
crazy.
I always say like people ask me like if I run the Bix, I'm like, if you can run a commanding Bix time, you can run a half marathon like easily.
Yeah.
And so then I signed up for the Bix. One of my best friends wanted me to pace him for a sub 60. So I'm like, yeah, that's good. I don't want to go out there and like try to do anything crazy and get injured or something like that. And so I went out. I was pacing for a sub 60, and so then he kind of started dropping back, like maybe like mile and a half, right before we turned on to Kirkwood.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm feeling
You're
great.
feeling good.
Like, let's go for it.
Yeah.
And so like, Austin had just passed me.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I'm gonna go for it here. And so I kind of picked it up. So I wasn't giving it kind of like my goal pace up Brady or on the straight there, but um, once we kind of turned on the Kirkwood, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna see what I can do. I ended up running a 50, like I think 50 flat. And so I'm like, man, so
That's
close at
crazy.
sub 50. I'm like, that was bogus. Like I could have done it for sure. I felt really good. Um, and so I remember at the finish line seeing Austin, and he was like, "Holy cow! Like that
Yeah.
was an awesome time. Like that's great." I think
Yeah.
he ran like 47 or something, like 46 maybe. He ran an awesome time last year or 2 years ago, whatever it was. But
I think we should tell people that don't know what the Bix is. I think I talked about it with the Docker and with Burn, but
yeah,
I mean, and I describe it as it's the worst, hardest 7 mile race I'd say and in the country.
I
It,
can't
it's
imagine a much harder.
I mean, the start. People think, well, yeah, you run it, but that's not even really the
I
toughest
never
part.
think the start's hard. I think the start is you have so much energy, so many people around. You're up ready before you know it.
I think that race starts at 3.5, and then once you come on the way back, it's like, okay, you've been running 3.5 miles, and then you turn around, and now you get to see everybody, and then you start going up that hill,
Through McClellan Heights.
and then Kurt, we were in a training run a long time ago, and we were doing the Bix route, and he got it in my head, and it was like, when you start coming, so you go through that S curve like
Yep,
around mile 5, and then there's another gradual hill. It doesn't seem like it, but it is. And you're going towards like the church, and
yep.
that stuck in my head every year since then. And I was like, God damn it, Kurt. I feel like I'm running uphill now because of you. It's a terrible race, but anyway. So you run it a 50 minute. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I was happy with that.
Yeah,
I
it's like
still look back and
7.
like, man, I wish I would have kind of gone for that for sub 49. This year's not going to be the year, but maybe next year.
Yeah,
But definitely gonna do it this year. But so then I ran that and I saw Austin. He's like, man, that was awesome. I'm like, that's great. I'm like, yeah, I felt really good. And so then, I mean, at that point, it's end of July and we're like
yeah. You were a
closing in
month
on
away.
Leadville.
Yeah,
I think it was August 17th was the date of my race. And so then my plan all along was to go out there a week before. I took the week off work. Um, and so I just try to get out there to acclimate as much as I can. I know most people who weren't familiar with Leadville, number one question is like, well, how are you going to deal with the altitude?
yeah,
And my sentinel was, well, I mean, nothing I can really do. It's going to be what it's going to be. So
yeah.
we're going to figure it out. And so then went out there a week early, spent some time with some family, um, and then saw some friend in Boulder, and then ended up making our way to Breckenridge. Stayed a few days in Breckenridge with my mom went out there with me, just me and my mom um, for the week before, and then uh, ultimately my brother and my dad met us out there with my grandma and my aunt, and then my girlfriend and her mom flew out, and we ended up staying in Copper,
Yep.
and so not too terrible drive from Leadville, in a nice townhome. And then I know Byrne and crew were in Leadville. They had an Airbnb because John was doing the Lead Challenge,
Yeah.
so he was there way before he was doing the bike, and
Yeah.
then doing the run too. So then we got there. Austin and Kurt were flying in, and they met up with us.
Well, did they get out there Thursday?
They got out there Friday.
Friday. Oh, wow.
Yep, they got
And
there
the race
Friday.
is Saturday
Yep.
morning.
So they had a
Gee.
dinner with John and Ken and Mary Lee actually.
Yeah.
And then got to Saturday morning. That's when or Friday morning. Right, they got there Thursday. You're
Okay.
correct. And so then Friday morning was the kind of
Packet
expo,
pickup. Yeah.
packet pickup. And so then I remember I don't know if they did it year to year, but they did it on the football field
Yeah.
at the high school there. And I'm like, man, I literally was like soaking it all in. Like, this is it. Like, this is Leadville. Like, I remember looking. They did a thing like, if this is your first time, like stand up. And I stood up and I was looking around. I'm like, nobody
Yeah.
is as big as me. This is bad news. And I'm like, okay. Like I didn't even. I was looking around, like seeing who had like this looks like a runner that was going to be doing the race. I'm like, man, I look out of place. This is bad. And so then John's a bigger guy too, though.
He is.
And
Yeah.
so then Austin was great. Austin, he gave me so much advice, and he was really invested in me finishing, and which I owe him so much. Um, and so he's like, man, we're gonna go pick up your packet, and then you're leaving, and you're going to lay down. He's like, we're not, you're not getting steps in today. You're not doing it. Like I wouldn't even do a shakeout run. Like some people do a shakeout run the day
Yeah.
before. He's like, go sit down, go lay down. A lot of people are gonna wander around this expo. And I would have wandered around for days. I would have spent money at every venue there. Probably bought a new Garmin watch.
Yeah.
I would have bought everything. So he's like, we need to leave. So we left, and I went back to our townhome in Copper, and I just laid in my bed. Um, and then, I mean, we had everything laid out like you do, and I props to my girlfriend here. She watched every YouTube video she could. She read every article that she could. For a first time crew at Leadville, I think we couldn't have been more prepared. She picked Austin's brain. She was the crew chief, and she did incredible. And she had everything I could possibly need, laid out, ready to go. And so then, I mean, it's race day.
So, like, what time did you have to get up? Because Copper, what is it, like 30 minutes?
Yeah, so we were up at 2.
Yeah.
Um,
Same. Yeah. We're
and
up at
so
2 and out the door at like 3.
yeah,
Get over there.
yeah. Austin
Because
was
it
super
starts at
worried that we were
4
gonna be
a.m.,
late.
right?
Yeah, 4 a.m. Austin was super worried that we were gonna be late. We made it over there. So I mean, there's not good parking either, and there's so many people. And so then we made it over there. Um, I had my Solomon bag. I was wearing the Hoka Speed Goats,
Oh, yeah.
Speed Goat fives. Was my shoe of choice to start. Um, and then I mean I had some trail socks. I took Austin's advice. My feet were completely lubed with Vaseline. Um, I had nipple covers on. I felt like I was ready. Um, and then met up with Byrne at the start. Said hi. That was the first time I'd ever met John DeDonker.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and the first thing he said to me is, "Someone doing Leadville at your age. This is awesome." And so then we get in the starting corral, and they sing a national anthem, and the race starts. And I remember crossing the starting line, waving to my family, and then kind of, this is it.
Yeah.
I remember thinking to myself vividly, I'm like, this is it. This is the Leadville 100. I'm starting it right now. I don't even know if people know this. I legitimately started tearing up.
Yeah, I bet.
I just got so emotional. I don't know why, but I'm like, this is it. Like this is what I've been training for, thinking about for years. This is the race.
Yeah. But
And
let's think about this for a second. You now only been running for 3 years, not even.
not even.
And this is your first, and the same for me. It was my first like official trail race.
Yeah, first ultra. That's not advised.
You pick the hardest
Yeah,
100-mile, your first ultra. Okay.
yeah. We didn't.
No, it is emotional. It definitely is. I remember we had a moment that was with all of us. We were in like a little huddle and just getting ready, and like you said, the gun goes off and you're like, all right, this is it.
So yeah, lock
This
in.
is it.
This is my life for like
30
let's be
hours.
honest. It's gonna be 29 hours. Let's be honest. I had no my goal. I don't know if you had a goal. My goal was finish.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
And I didn't have an incredible pacing strategy. I was like the only thing I knew. I'd heard from everybody. I'd heard from you, Kurt, Austin, John, everybody. Start slow,
Mhm.
slow down. And so that's what I did. I think. So we took off. Actually, as we started, I was running and I look over to my left, and like kind of a ways down the road, maybe a quarter mile down the road, standing by herself. Like I'm pretty sure that was Courtney DeWalter,
Yeah.
and it was. Her
Yeah,
husband was running the race.
Oh, okay.
I don't think she's ever done Leadville herself, but her husband was running the race that year. Um, and so then we keep going, going down the boulevard there, and I mean at that point it's like straight downhill for like the first couple miles. And so that's where a lot of people get it wrong and they're going too fast. And I'm like, I knew a lot of people were going too fast. And then you turn off and you start to kind of the trail.
Yeah.
I remember that first little incline there where everyone's kind of bottlenecked up and you start hiking up. Like, this is wild.
Yeah.
And
It's
then,
pitch black.
Yep, pitch black. I have my headlamp on. And then you make it up to the road and then you're going and I'm like, all right, I feel pretty good. My fueling strategy for the race, was I had Obviously, water in my, I got a 2 liter pack on my back, and then I had two flasks on the front of my salmon vest. At the time, that had electrolyte
Hmm.
powder mix in them, those strawberry flavored. Uh, I remember because I don't drink that anymore.
Yeah.
And and then and then plethora of goos. I trained a lot with actually Nick Bear has his
Mm.
company makes a goo, and it's a great consistency. It's almost like applesauce. Um, really great. And I was consuming one of those every 20 to 30 minutes.
Wow.
Um, and so then, yeah, that unlike Dodonker, did I remember Dodonker on his podcast with you said, I'm not someone that can take a goo for
Yeah.
24 hours. I was.
Yeah. Well, hey,
I did.
whatever works, work. For
I
you?
tried solitude at the start. I had a lot of Uncrustables, things like
No,
that,
yeah.
that I was planning to do. That's what I did a lot with John. Um, and John in our training rounds, he never had actual Uncrustable. He had a homemade peanut butter every
Right.
time.
Right.
So then we in a little like wrapped bag too, like
Oh yeah.
a crescent seal.
Yeah.
But
I
he
don't want to call him out, but we had a quick story on Leadville in 2016. Me and Pat and Kurt, we needed a mental break. We were staying in this house. We are in the basement of this house,
yeah
and it was awesome. No doubt about it. It was cool. So we drove up to Vale, and on the way there, we stopped at Walmart and we got some rice
yep
because we knew we were going to make this rice. And Pat had this like I don't know Irish butter that was like I don't even know grass fed,
yeah
but
yeah
and salt. And so we went back to the house and we thought it'd be cool. We were like, well, let's make all the rice. And our goal was 300 calories
yep
an hour. And it was like 1 cup of rice
yep
was like 290.
yeah
Close enough. And we had all these little baggies. And so we made the rice, Pat made it. We put it all in these baggies and there was like 50 of them. And when John and Rick came back, he said, did you guys measure it out? And we were like, yeah. I mean, a cup.
yeah.
And he said, "Oh, we got to make sure we have a cup." And he took it all out of the bags and remeasured the rice. So anyway,
I love John Bird.
yeah,
He's the most incredible guy I know.
yeah,
I love it. It's just so many stories just like that. I love it. But so I was feeling really good. Made it to May Queen without much issue. Um, Turquoise Lake. I think a lot of people have stories of people trying to pass on Turquoise Lake, and
single
you guys
track,
are going too fast.
yeah, rocks,
Or
woods,
I honestly saw I had a lot of people pass me, and then I got behind someone that was like almost walking. I'm like, hey,
yeah,
I get that we need to go slow,
yeah,
but I need to
yeah,
kind of go a little bit faster than this.
yeah.
I was right around Dodonker at that time. Chatted with him for a couple minutes. And then I did not see John Byrne. I started in front of him, and I didn't see him. And so then I remember John Docker actually told me when he caught up to me, and this was literally maybe 5 miles, and he goes, "Yeah, John's already sweating a lot." And so I made it to May Queen, and I don't know how it was for you, but that this was the first year I believe where May Queen was not a crude aid station outbound,
Yeah.
and so
So
um,
it was just an aid station, no
and
crude.
was it was terrible.
Yeah.
The truth is. And so what was going on was they had everyone's drop bags that you had brought, and they were not sorting them. They were just throwing them on the ground. And so people were frantically screaming, like, "Hey, I need my drop bag. Like, help me find number 252 or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
it
yeah,
was." I'm like,
yeah,
I got 720, like
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
the bib number was. And I that was something that like I advice for someone going if they were to do it, I would say, hey, make sure your drop bag's kind of like recognizable with like colored tape or
yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Make it so you know where it is. Because I just had gray duct tape on a plastic bag, and it looked like out of the 800, 700, whatever people had started, it looked like 650 of them.
Yeah.
And so then I sat around at May Queen for 5 minutes looking for my bag. On the sixth minute, I found it. I was 30 seconds away from saying, hey, they have some goose here.
Just grab
I don't
something.
really need much right now. I just need
Yeah.
to fill up my water and keep going. That's like 13 miles in. But man, I found it. Didn't need it, but I was like, hey, this is fine. I'm sure a bunch of people had left theirs though. And so then I start out, and that's kind of where you dip into the woods legitimately for the first time, starting getting into some hills. Um, because you're coming up kind of the backside of that mountain before then coming down power line. Um, before making it to Outward Bound.
Yeah.
That's the first crude aid station now. And it's like mile 23 and a half, I
Yeah.
remember. And so then I remember thinking like, man, these are pretty steep. And I saw a lot of people have their trekking poles at that time. And I had planned to pick them up at Twin Lakes.
Mhm.
Man, I could probably be using those, but I'm fine. Was feeling pretty good. Was pacing myself really well. I really was feeling good. Was in no danger of the cutoff times. I felt like I was really where I should be.
Yep.
Heart rate was good. I wasn't trying to get too in my head about that. I wanted to just feel good. And I didn't know how the altitude would affect it either. But I was just trying to keep it as low as I could, as you would want. I mean, you're going to be out there for 30 hours.
Yeah.
And so I ended up making it to Outward Bound. And a cool thing that is my girlfriend's idea, her and Austin had walkie-talkies. So Austin would walk
Yeah.
out a
Yeah.
quarter mile and he'd radio to them, be like, hey, got him. Here, we're coming in. And so then what they did is they had like a huge tarp and they had every single possible supply I could need laid out.
Hmm.
And I would sit down and they're like, what do you need? And she facilitated this. She had Austin taking off my right shoe, my dad taking off my left shoe.
Yeah.
It was really like a NASCAR pit stop.
Yeah.
Because in some of the videos we watched, like, hey, these aid stations are critical. Like you don't want to be sitting down too long. John and Anker said you don't even want to be sitting down at all.
2 minutes max. Yeah.
And so my goal was to be in and out in like 2 minutes, 3 minutes every
Hmm.
time. And so then I sat down, changed my shoes. And one issue that I was having is at the start of the race, immediately, I was like, man, I didn't tie my right shoe tight enough. And so I had a little bit of a sliding going on
Oh,
with my
little
right
friction.
ball of my foot.
Yeah.
And so then I didn't adjust it until May Queen. I couldn't get my hands were so cold I didn't start
Yeah.
out with gloves.
Yeah.
My hands were so cold I couldn't undo my laces.
Yeah.
And so I pulled my shoe off and I used my teeth to undo my laces at May Queen. Got that situated, but I'd already kind of started up a little bit of hot spot. I'm like, man, this is not good. I'm 13 miles in, I have a hot spot. Otherwise, feeling good. Made it there. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go for a change of shocks already. It's not a bad idea. Reapply some Vaseline. But I put the same shoes back on. The Hoka Speedgoat 5s. I really liked the way they're feeling. Um, and then took off from there. I refilled my goos and stuff. I was like, man, that was really quick, feeling good. Took off from there. And I feel like between Outward Bound and I mean, there's that little aid station that's uncrewed,
Yep.
where you can kind of just top off some things. That aid station, they had it down. There's about a guy probably quarter mile out, and he would see your bib and be like 718, and they'd have it for you when you got there. Like that was great. And so I just dumped those goos in my bag, grabbed the Uncrustable that I had in my drop bag, filled up my water and kept going. Was there maybe 2 minutes.
Hmm.
Kept going. That's at mile like 30, I think, if I remember, right around there, 29. And then made it to Twin Lakes really without a lot of issue. I think I got there maybe an hour and a half before the cutoff. It's like, man, I'm feeling pretty good. And those cutoffs on the front side, they're a little more tough than the backside. And so I made it to Twin Lakes with some good time to spare, feeling really good. Honestly, I'm like, man, I've already ran just shy of 40 miles,
Yeah.
feeling good. And at this point, I'd switched shoes. I'd switched into a brand called Speedland. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
Yeah.
And so they have kind of the boa.
Cameron Haynes.
Yep, Cameron Haynes. I have his ones
Okay.
with the elk blood on them.
Yep.
Um, exactly like we said earlier, getting into the weeds. I'm like, these have a drainage hole, and I'm about to go through
The water.
Yep, the water here. If I get a rock in, I can just undo the boa lacing system. Really wide toe box. And then too for climbing up Hope Pass, I'm like, man, going up, I'm gonna want them maybe a little bit looser. They don't need to be as tight. But going down where your feet are sliding, you can kind of tighten up those boas quickly, so your feet aren't sliding as much. I'm like, these are gonna be great. I'd ran a lot with them before, so I really do enjoy those shoes.
Yeah.
Those are great shoes. I would definitely recommend those to people. But swapped into those, did the same thing. The whole time too, I was wearing headphones. I was listening to podcasts actually, just something to keep my mind going. Had my phone, and so then yeah, just as the first one, I was in and out in less than 5 minutes, probably 3-4 minutes, and took off out of Twin Lakes.
Did you grab your poles?
Grab my poles, yep, and then took off. And then
How high was that stream?
it was probably just about to my knees.
Yeah.
Not
too bad.
Not too bad. And actually, like John said, John prepared me. He's like, honestly, like you might think like your feet are gonna be wet, and they do get wet, but it kind of feels pretty good. You've already been running 40 miles. And with the dry air of Colorado, like you dry pretty quickly. But I do remember while I was in the stream, there was this guy running at me. Like, man, this guy's hauling ass. Like, what's going on here? Turned out to be David Roach, and he's winning.
He's coming back.
And we passed each other in
He's
the
already
creek.
coming back.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's already coming back. with like no gear on,
Yeah.
nothing. And I hears me with my backpack on my poles, and I'm walking.
Yeah.
This dude's like next to sprinting.
Yeah.
Like he averages like 8 or 9 minute pace the whole race.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Um, but so then, yep, just like everyone, just kept going. And I made it to the base of Hope Pass. He had a couple miles after Twin Lakes, and I started up. And I'm like, man, this is pretty steep.
Yeah.
I kept going. Like, this is getting steeper. And I'm up next to the creek now. I'm kind of behind the little lane of guys, but I'm not bottlenecked at all. I'm like, this is as fast as I can go. Whatever, it's like a mile and a half an hour. And at that point, I wasn't in my head too much about it. I'm like, man, this is pretty steep, but we're doing all right. Um,
And then you come into switchbacks,
yeah,
and that just mentally is
yeah,
challenging.
yeah. However, I was still feeling mentally really good. I was really positive on the front side. Made it uh, to the hopeless aid station at the top, and
Yep.
I was like, man, that was pretty good. Still had a good time. Definitely lost a little bit of time, but nothing crazy. I wasn't getting like passed out of the blue, so I had to have been doing pretty good. Filled up my stuff there, got some ramen noodles. I was really upset that it didn't have any Coke or watermelon. I really was really hoping for Coke and watermelon. I don't know what that was. I was craving.
Yeah, sugar.
So then I filled up my water, and I started back up. He's got a little bit more ways up to the top. Made it up to the top. I just looked back over Leadville. I'm like, this is so
Yeah.
cool. Such an awesome view up there. Definitely want to, even if I don't ever do Leadville again, I definitely will hike Hope Pass again. I go, start my way down. I'm like, man, this is steep.
Yeah.
But you're going down, so it's like not that bad. I mean, going downhill can be dangerous, but I felt pretty good going downhill. And then pretty quickly after I started going downhill, I'm like, I can't get any water out of my bladder. And I'm like, this is not good. I quickly, and it was actually pretty hot during our race. I don't know the exact temperature, but it was definitely hotter than some years.
Yeah.
So I was drinking at that time. My stomach was not agreeing with the strawberry electrolyte mix, so I had, per Austin's recommendation, I had brought like tablets. And so then I had a bunch of those ready, and I knew kind of how many I wanted to take, and so I had those, and I had some water in my flasks that was quickly gone. I mean, there were small flasks in the front. And then my bladder was not getting any water. I'm like, and it's full. I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't know what's going on.
Hmm.
And this is my Solomon bag. And I don't have another, at Winfield, I don't have another bag. So like, I got to figure out something here.
Yeah, right.
And so then I made it down. I am just parched. And I'm like, okay, keep going. You got a couple miles then until you make it to Winfield. Um, and then that's when I kind of crossed paths again with John DeDonker and then the Travis Swanson guy who I work with at Deer from the Quad Cities. They're both looking really strong. And at that point, I really like, I don't know if it was the water or what, but I started to kind of mentally fade. Like, that was just a lull in my race, a low. And then there's highs, there's lows, and like every 5 minutes it changes.
Yeah,
But
but you're probably now 13 hours in,
yep,
something like that.
yep, 13 something in. Um, Ended up making it to Winfield, and luckily there was a great volunteer working there who's like, "Hey, what do you need?" And I'm like, "Can you get me my drop bag?" And like he's really helping me out. Um, and then I'm like, I have to fix this bike.
Yeah, what was wrong with it?
I don't know what was wrong with it. I took it apart, kind of attached the water line, um, kind of messed with some of the stuff. I don't know. I don't remember what was wrong with it, but I was able to get it working again. I'm like, sweet. Okay, this is great. This just saved my race, or
Yeah.
else I'm screwed. Filled up my bladders. He went and filled them up for me. Like he was like running and doing stuff for me. I was like, hey, can you really help me? And he was great. Got my drop bag, got my goos, and at this point, I remember I had lost a lot of time. And at that aid station, I left there with roughly 15 minutes was the cutoff.
Okay.
And I remember thinking in my head, man, I don't know if I'm gonna make it back. And I thought to myself, that's when I kind of started to go down the rabbit hole of I don't know if I'm gonna make it back. I don't want to ride the bus. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
right.
kind of there's time left, not
Yeah.
quitting, but I really don't know if I'm gonna make it back. But at least even if I don't make it in the cutoff, at least I'll walk it into Twin Lakes, get to mile 61 or whatever it is, 62, and I'll make it back there. But I really was losing hope that I would be in the cutoff. And the really one thing that was sticking in my head, I'm like, I know my family won't care, like they'll still be proud of me, but I really was bummed out that Austin made it out here and he wasn't going to get to pace me. That was one thing that was in my head. I'm like, man, it just sucks. Like Austin's so excited, and he kept telling me, "You make it to
Just
Twin
make it
Lakes,
back and we'll get
and
you
we'll
in.
get you in."
Yeah.
And he kept telling me
Yeah,
that. I'm
that's
like,
awesome.
I don't think I'm like, I truthfully probably didn't think that I would make it, even leaving Winfield. But I'm like, I'm not going to quit, so I'm gonna like at least walk it into Twin Lakes. And I had left I left Winfield, and I got out there probably about a half mile outside Winfield, maybe a little less. That's when I passed John Byrne. He wasn't looking great, and he's like so uber positive. He's
Yeah.
like, "Great job, buddy, you're doing great."
Right.
Um, and my family has funny stories of him too because they would set up camp right next to him at Twin Lakes and stuff. Um, and so then I was a little ways ahead of him, and so then I started my way back, and then kind of on the Colorado Trail there, as you're making it back to Twin Lake or to Hope Pass rather, I'm like, okay, I kind of got a second wind here. I'm feeling pretty good. Got some water in me. Um, ate some solid food that I had in my drop bag. Um, and then I get to the base of Hope Pass again, and you make that left turn up, and you're in the woods there. And I don't know if I didn't really clock how steep it was going to be on the
Oh yeah.
downhill,
Yeah.
but you like make that left turn to go
Yeah.
up,
It's
and
like
I'm
40
like,
degrees or something.
I immediately was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then I keep going, and I'm like, it's like, it's like step,
Oh yeah.
step, like
Hmm.
and I'm using my poles, and I'm struggling. I remember thinking to myself like that. I didn't know that there were trails this steep in the world. I
Yeah.
didn't know this was possible.
Yeah.
I really didn't. And I'm like, I remember you, I remember Kurt, Austin. Everyone telling me like Hope Pass is the hardest part. Like Hope Pass is so steep, like that's just brutal. That's like the main talking point of level is Hope Pass. And I knew it'd be hard, and I truly think it was probably 100 times harder than I thought it was going to be. And so then I'm making it up the backside slowly, and I'm like, man, that even more so. I'm like,
And now it's
there's,
starting to get dark,
yep,
probably.
the sun's starting to set a little bit, and I'm like, there's no way. All the while, I probably get close to the clearing to you finally make it up to the switchbacks, which deceivingly we have a lot to go. And I thought, man, I don't think I'm gonna make it. Then I run out of water, and I'm like, man, this is nightmare. And I'm so parched that like I'm not gonna take in a goo. Like that's gonna make it
Yeah, you're gonna
infinitely
be able to
worse.
swallow. Yeah.
And so then I just keep going slowly. And at this point, I really was kind of like, man, I don't think this is in the cards. I think I'm probably gonna make it back to Twin Lakes past the cutoff. Be cool. I made it 61 miles. I guess maybe when I'm older, I could be like, yeah, man, 61 miles. I don't know. I seriously just was like, man, I'm just as bummed out that like I'm kind of letting Austin down. Um, my family came out here too. Like this kind of sucks. I made it this far, but it is what it is. And I two times I ended up sitting down on a rock on kind of one of those switchbacks. Definitely bad decision, but I sat down on a rock, looking out over the valley, and I literally thought to myself, like, man, this was a good attempt. Like I did pretty good. Like this was really difficult. Um, but what the driving force of me getting back up, I can truly say, was I need to get water
Yeah.
at this hopeless aid
Yeah.
station.
Right.
I have no thought in my mind to like, oh, I need to get there and make it down. I just need to get some water.
Yeah.
Kept going a little bit, switch back, same thing. Sat down for a second, like, man, you get some water. And I kept going, and then finally I passed somebody who's sitting down on a rock too. We're getting close to the top now, and they said to me, "Man, yeah, we tried our best." And even though I've been telling myself that, I was like, I remember thinking, I'm like, yeah, you're right, but it's not over.
Yeah.
We haven't missed the cutoff. It's not over. And so then I made it to the top, got a little ways back down to that hopeless aid station, got there, filled out my water. But all the while, I still was like, man, I'm looking at my watch, I'm doing the math. I'm like, man, you're gonna have to
Focus.
skirt down
Yeah.
down Hope Pass, which is pretty dangerous to do,
Yeah.
honestly. And even the volunteers there, a lot of the volunteers at the hopeless aid station are have done it a lot, and they're like, I overheard someone say, man, I don't know if this is like, I don't know if people are gonna make it. Like, you're gonna have to run pretty fast. And I don't remember the exact time I was at that aid station. But I was like, I literally looked at my watch and they're right. Like,
Yeah.
this is gonna be difficult. And so then at this point, it's dark. I leaving the aid station. I had my headlamp on. I started going, and in the woods, I'm walking. No, I had no thought that I was going to finish. I honestly made peace in my head that I wasn't. And all of a sudden, from behind me in the woods, Evan Kilstrom, it's John Byrne. And I was like, no way. He caught
He
me
caught you. That's
and
crazy.
he said, I think we can finish. I think we can make it. And I looked at my watch and I'm like, I don't think we can make it. But I didn't say that. And he's like, all right, let's go. He's like, but my watch just died. So I don't know how fast we're going. So you're gonna have to like tell me what our pace is and if we're gonna make it or not. I'm like, all right. And I wasn't gonna let him pass me by.
Yeah,
I'm like, of
right.
course I'm gonna tag
Yeah.
along behind him. And when I say we were barreling down. And he doesn't use trekking poles either. And I'm like catching myself here and there with my trekking poles. He doesn't use them. We're barely down. We passed so many people going down Hope Pass, and he kept checking in with me like every like 2 minutes, like how we doing? I'm like it's gonna be close.
Yeah.
And I had so much brain fog at the time, like doing the math was like calculus. I'm like this is so hard.
Yeah.
And so we ended up, we kept going. He's like I think the creek's right up here, and it was not. Um, we finally made it to it. He's like you would think I've done this so many times I know where we are, but
Yeah.
we didn't. Um, and so then we ended up making it to the base of Hope Pass where it kind of flattens out. And I don't remember exactly the distance we had, but we did not have we had a decent amount to go, so we really had to book it. We're like under 10-minute pace for sure.
Yeah.
Is what we were
It's
hitting.
like a couple miles.
Yeah, it's probably two and a half, 3 miles.
Yeah.
And we had under 30 minutes. Like we were having to push paces of 9 minutes for sure. 9 minutes for sure. And all the while back at Twin Lakes, all they know is that I made it to Hope Pass
Yeah,
Aid
because
Station.
yeah, that's right. There was something wrong, and it
And
said that
John Byrne, it
DNFs.
said John Byrne DNF.
Yeah.
And Rick packed up shop and was
Yeah.
leaving.
Yeah.
He's in line for the bus. And then all of a sudden Joan calls and they're like, he just pinged at the top. And I'm like, what's going on? And so then they're like, all right, maybe John's back on. But they didn't know what was going on. Maybe it was a false ping. Like they said he DNF'd and he was just walking over maybe. And so then they'd kind of like change strategy and Austin was gonna pace me for a large leg, and then
Yeah.
my brother was gonna take me home was the goal.
Yeah.
And so they're like, maybe now that John's not gonna finish, like maybe Austin takes me up until Outward Bound, and then Kurt takes me up power line. That was their plan. And then, but I mean, Austin's a positive guy. He's like telling my family, like, yeah, he's gonna make it. And then my mom's like, Kurt, and Kurt, Kurt's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Um, and I remember them. Kurt tells the story a lot. He says, I truly in my head was like, Evan, 10%,
Yeah.
John, 1%.
Yeah.
But we were together and we were coming down. We had a couple miles to go. And I mean, I truly think Austin probably walked over half a mile out. Austin and Kurt were standing there. And they're waiting for headlamps to come in the distance, and he has this walkie-talkie, and my girlfriend's sitting back. And thankfully, our crew they were a seasoned crew, so they knew that if we were going to come in, it was going to be close.
Yeah.
And so they had actually moved the timing mat for Twin Lakes is at the edge of the town, at the back end. So you got to run all the way through town.
Wait right to the bottom of that
So
hill.
they moved they packed up shop and moved everything past the timing mat. So if we were to come in, which most of them thought there's no way, we would get past it and then kind of be right there.
Yeah. Wow.
So John's crew did that, my crew did that, with 10% hope that I was going to finish. And so then we're coming in, and I remember seeing, like, Austin tells the story incredibly, but we're coming in and we're booking it, and we're like looking at my watch, and this is gonna be close. And then Austin's sitting there waiting, nothing, and then finally he sees like it's crazy, it's like a movie, like two headlamps in the distance. And he remember him and Kurt are like, if that's not Evan and John, like they're done. And it turns out it was me and John together. And I was in front of John at the time. And Austin was like, oh my God. And like freaking out.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, and John.
Yeah.
Austin had a jug of water in his hand. He dropped it. He's like freaking out.
Yeah.
And then he's like, let's go. So he's like pacing me in. And he's like, we gotta go, we gotta move. Because the timing guy was kind of walking slowly, like if they don't beat me to the mat, they're done. We pass him in the Twin Lakes town. John's right behind me with Kurt. We made it with 2 minutes, 13 seconds to spare. to the Twin Lakes inbound aid station. And the energy that
Yeah.
everyone in the town had for us, the energy that our crew had for us was electric. And it really gave me the second wind.
Oh,
I
yeah.
I was like, man, and I thought in my head now, like I for so long I thought that this wasn't gonna happen. Like for hours, I was like, I'm not gonna finish. And then I'm like, man, we're gonna finish. Like I literally thought that at Twin Lakes, I'm like, this is it. Like we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Um, Austin was suited up, ready to go. And that aid station. Interestingly, was my fastest transition. I switched my shoes back to my. I had this pair of Asics that I was going to run, and I don't even remember the name of them. They're a trail Asics. I had run a few training runs in them. I didn't fall in love with them. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stick with my Speedgoat fives. They didn't get wet. They didn't get dirty. They just got dusty.
Yeah.
And so I put those back on, swapped my socks. I'm like, we're out of here. I was in and out in 3 minutes. Um, John took a little bit longer. He sat down for a little while. But Austin and I were in and out, and right out of Twin Lakes, I mean, you're back
Oh,
uphill
you
again
were done.
for like 3 miles.
Yeah.
And so we're walking, and Austin's like, "This is just unbelievable." I'm like, "Yeah." And I just kind of ran through that story with him, and then you keep going. And Austin, I don't think of anybody that could have paced me. I don't think there's a better person than Austin. He talked my ear off the whole time. He was so positive. He was relentless to me about, you need to eat, drink, eat, drink. He always says that Leadville's an eating and drinking contest while
Yeah.
moving, and I think there's definitely truth to that. And so did I want to be putting down another goo? No, but did I? Yeah. Did I want to be drinking? No, and I did. Um, and so from there, um,
It's a
honestly,
long 14-mile stretch.
yeah,
You go, after you get there, you barely make the cutoff, 2 minutes to spare, and now you got to hike for 7 hours
yep, yep,
again. And you're like,
yep,
this is stupid.
yep. And so then I was like, you know what? We need to kind of still make up some time here. It's not. I was able to kind of think like, it's not fully in the bag. I think we still need to kind of
Oh, yeah.
Austin knew that too. He's like, we're gonna need to push where we can push, but we're not to the point where we need to run everything. We're gonna have to on the flats and downhills. We're gonna have to make an effort to run when we can. And I was feeling pretty good at the time too. Like I wasn't having any major issues, not cramping, not chafing, no blisters that were really hindering.
Yeah.
They were starting for sure, but nothing crazy. And so then from there, I mean, we make it to the kind of that aid station there. I forget the name of it. Um, but then made it there, quick change there, and there were people inside. It was cold at this time. There was people inside there huddled around the fire. Austin's like, "Don't even go in there.
Yeah.
Don't even go in there.
Yeah.
I'll get you what you need." And we're just getting on our way. I went to the bathroom. He grabbed me what I needed. We went on our way. I didn't even grab my drop bag. I'm like, we didn't even need it. And so then we made it to Outward Bound, and at that point, it was 30 degrees, unbelievably windy. I was so locked in tunnel
Yeah.
vision. I'm like, I didn't even realize. I'm like, oh, it's pretty windy.
Yeah.
Like my family talks about it, like this is the worst of all time. My mom's got like one of those thermal blankets on that's
Yeah.
like the crunchy silver one.
Yeah.
She's wearing that at the aid station. They're all been awake the whole time, and so then we get there. And it's the same thing. We're in and out pretty quickly. Everyone's doing good. But like in the back of my head, and I'm sure Austin's too, I'm like, okay, this is the real test here. We got power line.
Power line. Yeah.
And that's something that is not talked about a lot because of Hope Pass, but like man, that power line at mile 80 is brutal. And I guess like coming down it, you don't really think about it. You're pretty fresh in the race, but going up it, it's all these false summits. It's like
Mhm.
up and then flat. And I'm like, all right,
Mhm.
that's not bad. And then it's like, oh, never mind. For miles, seemingly. And so then we get to the base of power line. You were on that road for a little while. We ran good majority of that, but we made it to the base of power line. And I think to back up, I think um, we ended up making about 30 minutes back on the
Oh,
cutoff.
wow.
And so by the time we got to Outward Bound, we had 30 minutes. It's like, man, this is great. Like we're in a really good spot. And so then we started at power line, and Austin said, "What we're gonna do is I'm gonna go in front, and you're gonna be right on me. And if I look back, you're gonna be right here." That's how he talked to me, and I'm like, "All right,
Did you have any
absolutely."
poles?
Yep, I had my poles, and I'm like, "Absolutely, like this is what we need to do." And Austin and I talk about it to this day. He pulled out his phone and went on Pandora, and like he had reception, and he's like, "What do you want to listen to?" And I said, 90s rap.
Yeah.
And so the two songs I vividly remember, we listened to Regulate
Yeah.
and we listened to Today Was a Good Day by Ice Cube.
Oh, wow.
And we were literally singing them
Yeah.
as we were passing people who were like sprawled out on rocks next
Yeah.
to us. And Austin, he's like, doing great, brother. Just
Yeah.
keep eating and drinking.
Yeah.
And they're like, I was like, screw these guys.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are idiots. But we're literally singing like Regulate and Nate Dogg and Warren G and we're just trucking along. We didn't miss a beat. We didn't stop. We didn't pull off. We kept going. Nobody passed us. We passed everybody. Um, and that was huge. And so then you make it to space camp up there. Um, that's fun. And
Yeah.
then from there, I really was like, man, we, I got. I mean, there's so much still to go, really. But I mean, unless something catastrophic, you did it. Like, you made it. Especially like mile 85. Um, Not a huge ton of climbing yet. Once you make it to the top there, um,
And then you just start going
yeah,
down.
start going down. And then May Queen inbound is crude. And so then I made it to May Queen inbound. Sun was just coming up, and I think we had 25 minutes at that time. I had a little bit of stomach issues. I had to pull off and go to the bathroom in the woods. Um, with that really that did it, and I felt better. Um, and so then we made it to May Queen inbound, and that's when my brother was going to take me in. And at that time, he had run a half marathon, and he was picking up the running, but nothing crazy. But I mean, like, we're going to be running like a
Yeah.
3 hour half marathon, over 3.5 hour half marathon.
Yep.
But Austin, man, Austin was really nervous. He's like I'll be honest. He told me this as we were coming down in May. He's like, I'll be honest, I don't know if that's the right call. Like, we just need to make sure. Like, are you sure? Like, this is what like he can do it? I'm like, absolutely. I trust him. Like, we're gonna be fine. Like, I'm feeling good. I'm fresh.
Yeah.
Like, 13 miles to go. We'll be all right. Um, and so then, man, that was a fun aid station because it was kind of like, yeah, this is it. Like,
Hmm.
this is the home stretch. We're coming in. Austin was tagging out, and he just done 25 miles.
Yeah.
Um, and so he was tagging out, and my brother was tagging in, and the sun was coming up, and so then we took off, and I told my brother, like, hey, we just need to really make sure that this we did the math, and like, this is the pace we need to hit. Like,
Hmm.
we can't really let ourselves stray above that. Um, and he did an awesome job of doing that, and my girlfriend did a good job too. She was already doing the math, and she had everything laid out. Like, this is the pace we need to do. This is the times that we were at everywhere, and so we knew roughly what we needed to do. Um, and luckily around, I still like had some ability to run at that
Yeah.
point. And so luckily around Turquoise Lake, it's kind of a nice single track,
Yep.
and so you can kind of get some momentum around the corners, and we ran a lot of it. Um, but man, that was really fun running in with my brother, um, my youngest brother, and I remember passing by some of the campsites right along Turquoise Lake, and one of the groups was like, "Yeah, saw you yesterday."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, gosh, this is crazy." And then we made it around Turquoise Lake, and at this point, I kept asking every aid station, like, "How's John?" And I remember them being like,
Yeah.
like, he's still cutting it close. I'm like, shoot. And so then we made it back to the boulevard. We kind
Hmm.
of turned back left up on the boulevard, and that's like same section I've had the whole race. Like, I don't remember it being this steep coming
Yeah.
down.
Now you got to climb
And we
again.
have a
A
couple
hill,
miles to
a
go, and
mile. Yeah.
that's when
That road is
even
terrible.
yep, terrible. And I had known that I'd kind of already made peace in myself, like, oh, I'm gonna finish. Um, I kind of had like an emotional moment with my brother. Like, I knew
Yeah.
this is it. I'm gonna finish. And so then after that, I kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm really feeling kind of shitty. My stomach hurts really bad. My blisters hurt really bad.
Yeah.
And you turn on Boulevard and you have over 3 miles to go. I'm
Yeah.
like doing the math. I'm like, all right, we have an hour and a half to cut off. So we're gonna finish, but like an hour to go
Yeah.
like, of walking. Like, this
Yeah.
is terrible.
Yeah.
Um, and so then I had a blister pop on the Boulevard. My brother tells me the story. He's like, "Oh, that's not good." I'm like, "That's fine. It is what it is. Like that's gonna mess me up
Yeah.
now." And so then, yeah, I walked it in, and I remember my mom and dad texted my brother probably 100 times, like, "You guys doing good? Like, you gonna make it?" They were so freaked out that we weren't gonna finish. I'm like, "No, we're fine." And so then Austin probably came out about a mile and walked in that last mile with us, and man, that was really special
Yeah.
with him and my brother. And then, yeah, just that moment of of coming across, cresting that hill and seeing kind of that
Hmm.
down and up, and man, what a special moment, and to see all the people there. And what's really cool about like golden hour finish, I think that's what they call it, is like everyone's there
Yeah.
watching. Like I mean, like whatever, like 75% of people at least are finishing in that hour. So there's so many people there. The energy's so high. It was so cool. And I remember Austin telling me, "Hey man, you wanna run it in?" And I said to him, Austin,
Yeah.
I if I start running, I'm gonna crap my pants.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna shit my pants. And so I'm like, no, no, I do not. And so we walked it in. My girlfriend ended up coming in with us. So crossing the finish line was my girlfriend, my brother, and Austin. And it was so amazing
Yeah.
getting the buckle, get my medal. But then, funny story is, uh, uh, Errol Malik, who I don't know if you know the name, but um, he's big in the PV community. Good friends with all the PV football coaches, so I've known him a lot. Um, talked to him a million times. Really been close with him throughout the years. He's an older guy. Does a lot for the PV program. Um, but he was there because he was watching John finish. He was at the finish line. He saw my
Wow.
parents there, and like we know him pretty well. And he's like, I didn't even know Evan was
Yeah.
rolling this. Like this
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah.
And so then at the finish line, I saw him there. Obviously my family, and then I literally was like, "This is great. This is awesome. I really need to go to the bathroom like
Yeah. Right.
immediately."
Yeah.
And so I immediately found a porta potty, and I went, and then I got out of the porta potty. I sat right down on the curb, like I put my hands in my head. And there's like some funny pictures of my girlfriend like putting her arms around me, and it looks like she's consoling me
Yeah.
after a
Yeah.
DNF.
Yeah.
But like, no, I just finished,
Yeah.
and I was on cloud nine. But I was like, oh my gosh, I like not once you finally finish and it kind of sets in. I'm like, this is that was brutal.
Yeah.
And so, but man, see, I sat there, and so actually, what was really cool is I ended up finishing 1 minute behind Travis Swanson from
Oh,
John Deere.
wow.
Yep, he
Holy
finished two
crap.
thirty. He finished 29:39, and I finished 29:40.
Wow.
And then John finished a couple minutes after me. And so then I was like, I got my medal, got my buckle, and I raced over there. Um, so I'm like, John's coming in. And at that point, I knew like, yep, John's gonna make it. Um, and so then I was able to see John finish and cross the finish line, and just our story is so cool
Yeah.
because I mean he talks about it too. I wouldn't have finished without John, and John says he wouldn't have finished without me. Like if we wouldn't have ran into each other coming down Hope Pass, I really don't think either of us would have finished. I certainly wouldn't have finished, and he says he wouldn't have either. And just so cool that like full circle moment, like someone who was so influential
Mm.
to me in my training, and I owe a lot to John to even getting me to the finish line in Leadville. Like I think without John, I wouldn't have finished regardless. But I think just our story on the race, like how
Yeah.
cool it was that it came full circle and that both of us needed each other on the mountain to finish. It was just an epic story. And then man, Austin, same thing. Like I wouldn't have finished without Austin. His and like my family would say the same thing. The way that he comforted them, I know my mom was scared to death the whole time. She thought
Yeah.
I was gonna die for sure. Um, Pulmonary edema.
Yeah.
She thought for sure this was gonna be it. And so just the way that he was able to comfort them, and he's such a positive guy too. He's like, man, he's got it. Like absolutely. Um, and so he was great. And then like, as a pacer, like I said, like I really don't think there's anybody better to pace me. Just his positive attitude. He kept me going. He was locked in. He took it really seriously. Um, and I'm forever grateful for him and my
Yeah.
girlfriend, the way that she was the crew chief. I think with all those things, it was just an incredible experience, incredible journey, and I mean, like obviously, it's just like a story I'll tell forever.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing, and you know, going from not couch to 100 miler, but pretty
Yeah,
close,
absolutely,
right?
100%.
Not ever being a runner. I mean, soccer probably got you in some running shape when you were little, and then playing football and being an athlete.
Yeah,
Um, no, it's a really really cool story. I remember hearing Austin tell it a couple weeks after about like because you don't know like you can't see what's happening when
yeah,
you're watching it online. You just see checkpoints go
yep,
by and you're like, oh man, they've only got 15 minutes. And I remember same thing, like it was dark, it was coming into Twin Lakes, and I think let's just say if the cutoff was 9:30, it was like 9:15,
yep,
and you're like, holy crap. now you know you got to put in more work. But it's an amazing story to go from where you started to first trail race,
Yeah.
100-mile
Yep.
race in Leadville, finishing that. And I don't know. So what are you gonna do now?
It's a great question. Everyone has the same sentiment. They're like, man, I got done with Leadville. I
Yeah.
finished, and like, I am never doing that again, ever. And I was like that for a long time. And I think even too, like I think you think about it objectively, it's like everything went right on that day.
Yeah.
Weather was cooperative. I was able to put down food. I wasn't dehydrated. I managed chafing, blisters,
Yeah.
everything. I didn't get injured. Kurt's had issues, got injured before.
Yeah.
Like everything went right. And I'm like, that for that to align again, you never know.
Right.
And I thought for months, I thought there's no way I'll ever do it again. And then, like everyone says, like I mean, I took enough time away. Um, I ended up running the Quad City Marathon about what was that, a month later, a month and a half later with my brother. It was his first full marathon. And so that was a cool first local moment. I kind of paced him for that.
Yeah.
Um, really proud of him for that. But and then I'm like, man, I don't know. That was kind of like a cool accomplishment. I don't know if that's like if running's like it's not necessarily me. It's not my identity. It's like I thought that was really cool, but I don't have any aspirations to do it again. But then I'd be lying if I didn't say like I think about it a lot. Like man, I think I benefited a lot from being naive and not knowing what was coming. I
Yeah.
think I think I'm definitely the type prefers that. However, tactically looking at it, I think there's things I would change in my training. There's things I would change in the way I attack the race. That's like, man, I feel like with some simple tweaks, I could really improve. Like I could
Yeah.
really, if the stars aligned and like I feel like I could really improve. So that's definitely something I think about all the time. I would love to try it at a lighter body weight too. I think that'd be a cool challenge. No, I'm not gonna say like, yep, I'm locked in. I'm going for that
Yeah.
big buckle.
Yeah.
I'm not Kurt Johnston, but
Yeah.
I think that definitely is something I wouldn't say is impossible. I'm doing the Chicago Marathon this year.
Nice.
Just I entered the lottery for fun. It's just a random lottery. Got into that, so doing that is more of a fun run. We'll see what I can run. Hoping for three something. I don't have a goal yet. I'll kind of probably maybe pick a goal a little bit closer. Um, doing the Bix, but as far as running goes, nothing serious on the docket. Just been lifting a lot. My brothers were home over Christmas break, and we were
Yeah.
really lifting a lot. Um, I was able to achieve a life goal of benching 405.
Jeez.
Actually, this is a funny story that I'll tell. I always in my head thought it'd be cool to say that I did Leadville and
Yeah.
also be able to bench press three plates like at the same day, like at the same time. And so I got back. We ended up driving back on Monday. I woke up early and drive home the whole way. Tuesday after work, I went to work Tuesday, and for those of you who don't know, I was an engineer at John Deere, so I was out on the production floor, my steel toe boots on. Probably got 10,000 steps that day. Um, Went to the gym after work and did 315 on bench press for 2 reps.
Nice.
And so I was proud of myself to say I could rep
Yeah.
315 on bench press and
Yeah.
did Leadville. And then a few months after that, I got a life goal of bench pressing 405. My brother spotted me, and so that was super cool.
Yeah.
Kind of that John Byrne arc now of
Oh
going
yeah.
after the bench press. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's a good question. I don't know what's next. I am someone that likes to have something on the docket. Um, I've thought kind of like a lot of people do about an Ironman. I think that'd be really cool. John says that it's pales in comparison to Leadville,
Oh
but
yeah.
but uh, that's not. I think that's intriguing to me. I think the bike is something I'd have to train for, run I'd have to train for, but the swim I'd have to practice.
Mm.
And that the swim seems the most daunting part to me.
Yeah.
But that's definitely something on the radar. But beyond that, I don't know.
It's funny. I had coffee with Austin this morning, and we were not joking, but we were like, "Why don't we do the lead challenge next year or whenever?" Because like when I was talking to Dodonker and with Vern, if you want to do the lead challenge, you're in.
You're in.
You just sign up
Yep.
and you're into all of them.
Yeah.
There's no lottery. And we thought about it and we're like, yeah, we gotta have to get bikes and we'd have to start riding the bike. But it'd be kind of cool to do.
John Byrne coach you.
Yeah. I just can't imagine, and I talked to both of those guys about it, doing the 100-mile bike on a Saturday, waking up, doing a 10K, and then a week later running 100 miles. And it's just, I guess when you're in it, you got to do it.
Yep.
But I mean, thinking about that, just that 5 days.
Even something as small as sitting on your bike seat for that
Yeah,
long,
no
like
kidding.
I think
Yeah,
would
14
make
hours or
me
something.
not be able to complete the 100 run.
Yeah.
Like I think that
Yeah,
alone
right.
would be enough to take me out of the run.
But perspective training, right? So if you do the
Yeah.
training, like, your dad's a big
Yep.
biker and mountain biker, and, you get used to it, you get in the saddle and you start to get just like callus on your feet,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Same kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I when I just John doing that, I just can't even fathom.
Yeah. And
But
they're 60 years old.
unbelievable. Him and
Uh,
Dodonka, that's crazy. Absolutely.
yeah. All right. Well, that was a really cool story. Thanks for sharing.
Awesome.
I really appreciate it. Any last words for anybody that wants to attempt this? I mean, you went from 5K to 100 miler in 3 years.
I think if I were to give people advice, I would say it's possible. Like I think, um, do I think I probably trained what the person who you look up how much you should train for 100 miler would say? Probably not. But I think there are certain intangibles that you can have that set you apart, and I think just having a grit and an unwavering faith that like and determination that like you can do it and you're gonna finish, and like a you're not gonna quit. Like if you just go out there with the mindset that you're not gonna quit, I think that that puts you already in a spot where like man, like maybe you didn't train enough, maybe this, maybe that, but like if you have your mindset right, I think that that puts you really far. And I think in a race like Leadville, so much of it is mental. I think
Yeah.
you have to meet a certain criteria of yep, you have to fuel right, you have to do all this right. But I think there's plenty of people out there at Leadville every year. I mean, there's what 400 people roughly finished the year I did it, about half usually every year. Um, and I think that mindset is tough to get into, but I think if you can tap into that, I think that really gives you a good shot if you're within reach of finishing. Um, one statistic that I think about a lot is it's interesting to me how not a lot of younger people do ultra
Mm.
marathons. I looked it up again just to make sure it was right, but
Yeah.
when uh 400 people, give or take a few, finished Leadville the year that I did it. 11 were my age or younger.
Wow.
And so that just it, tapping into that just mentality of not quitting is tough to do, but I think if you can do it, I think that that's what you need to do to be able to finish. That's what sets those finishers apart from the people that don't.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely is a mind game. It's unbelievable. So, congratulations again, and thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.